traffic. How much fun can you have? Hello, and this is going to be hopefully a short run through on publishing, and actually the costs of publishing from a publisher's standpoint. So, as an author, probably very familiar with the traditional how do you make a book, which is you write the book, you edit the book, you get feedback on the editing, you do proofreading. Eventually, you get an artist to do a cover. You go to the formatters, you get the various pieces out, and if you're going to do an audiobook thing, and voila, you have the ready to publish electronic versions of the book. So what happens once you have that? So that's I did the math on that one, and that's roughly 400 hours worth of labor plus $3,000 to $4,000 cash. So once you actually have the ready to publish electronic files and pieces, what then happens? So what we have here is you have the author gets the pieces together, and in the traditional publishing deal, you give the manuscript to the publisher. The publisher does all of the preparatory work, and then after that, the publisher then has to typeset, get the books printed in a publishing house or a factory or something like that. The books are then shipped to the box stores, and the box stores eventually sell them to the actual happy readers, or throw them in the trash. And then there's also the electronic publishing of the books, which is to get them out and again get them to the readers. So there's two ways to get the books to readers, which is either electronic or traditional paper. There's a massive market for electronic books, but it's still smaller than paper books. So what does the actual costs of that look like? And the answer is surprising, because if you look at the stepping aside from the preparation costs, you can actually look at how does an actual big box publisher successfully make money. So the traditional publishing deals range between 7 and 15%, sometimes a little bit higher, on the royalty, and that's royalties on units sold. Okay, so what happens with the publisher is the publisher. I will scan this and put this in here so you can go through this. But the publisher gets the ready to publish manuscript ready, then has to do setup. So they have to basically tool the publishing factory or facility to make a specific book. Then they spit out a run of those books, and then they retool for the next book, and then rinse and repeat. So I'm going to use a book that's just going out in hardcover format and in a mass media format, which is the small 3x5 thin paper. The numbers work out roughly the same for when you go to trade, which is the 6x9s, and etc. The publisher has pre-order deals. They prepare for the publishing run by attempting to determine how many books they should make up front, because in this case, scale reduces costs. So if they think they can sell 5,000 copies of the book, they want to print 5,000 copies of the book right then, right there on that first pass. And this is how they get the cost per unit down. The stores are almost never at risk. The stores order wholesale costs, And when they pay the publisher for the book, they pay the shipping in the book, the book shows up. If the book doesn't sell, the stores call back up and say, I have 6 copies of this book that did not sell. I'm returning them. The bookstores insist on a deep discount on a wholesale and the ability to do returns. So with the returns is the killer, because let's run through this from an independent author, an indie author. The setup fees to put together the pod distribution system is roughly $100. If you use CreateSpace kind of eats it. If you use Ingress or Lightning Source, it's $100 to do the setup. You then have to set the pricing. Now the pricing has to be high enough that when they take the discount, the wholesale discount off, it covers the publishing cost or the manufacturing cost. So let's say for a hardcover, we'll go with a rough estimate of $15, which is actually low. So the printing cost of a hardcover is $15. That's the raw cost to make that book and ship it. A trade is $11, and a mass media book, a 5x3, is $9. So you have to set the suggested retail price high enough so that you can give a 55% discount to the stores. So in other words, they pay 45% of the suggested retail price, which is a 55% discount. And the price that they pay has to be above the printing costs, because the printer is going to take that cost right away, and that's it. So let's say you want to make $1 per book. So if you do $1 per book, you have to set the price at $21.81 if you're going to sell a trade. That's a 6x9 paperback. You have to sell the paperback at $22 because what happens is the printing cost is $11. You want $1, so when you sell that book to a bookstore, they want to pay you 45% of that, or wholesale cost. So they're going to only pay you $12 for that book. Okay, so the store pays $12. Let's say a typical store will order 20 books. Okay, so the store orders 20 books of the book to put on the shelf, and they pay $2 shipping per book because it's a small order. So they're going to end up paying $264 for those 20 books. $12 printing. The $12 sales fee is $11 printing fees, which goes to the printer, $1 for you, and $2 shipping. So it's $264 that they pay. Now, the printer pays the independent author $20 because I sold 20 books. That's it, right? No, because the store wants to deal with returns. Now, typical, if it's a reasonable seller, it will have a 30% return rate. What does that mean? That means that on 20 books, 6 are going to come back. Now, when the store decides that it's finished with your book, it calls up and says, I have 6 copies left, I want a refund. So the printer happily refunds the 6 times 12 for the cost, which is $90, because it's the $12 plus the shipping. They get both back. Now, generally, most authors and most systems just say throw it away. They rip off the title and the copyright page and they throw that in the trash. It's illegal for a bookstore to sell a book without the title and copyright page, because if they're missing, that means that they were actually disposed of. They're supposed to be in the trash. So that means, if you do the math, for that sale of 20 books that the author got paid $20 for, the store sold 14, got a return on 6, and the return on 6 costs $90. The printer is not going to give any money from their bank account. Who pays for that $90 return fee? The author. So the printer goes back into the author's and pulls $90 out. So now the author has refunded $90 to the store for the cost of the books and the shipping, and they only earned $20. The net, they lost $70 putting that book in a bookstore. This is why indie authors generally stay away from bookstores, or they don't do the bookstore gig, because you can't, dealing with pod printing process, you cannot get the numbers to work out right. So the only thing you can do is set a steeper discount. So it's like, I'm only going to give a 35% wholesale discount. I'm going to make a little bit more money on it per sale. And then you flip off the I don't accept the returns. And then at that point, almost no store orders, because the stores don't want to be at risk if your book doesn't sell. So that kind of kills any general sales of the printed versions of the books without taking on the risk of returns. Now, how does an actual traditional publisher do it? Well, on a traditional publishers are offering between 7 and 15%. Sometimes they're offering a little bit higher. And what they do is that, let's just go through the numbers here. So they have, if they're going to do a run, let's say they do a run of 2,000 hard copies and 4,000 mass media. Okay. Because they're doing a run, they can print those at their costs for printing those are about $5 per hard copy and about $1.50 per mass media. You see, there's a huge difference in the pricing right there. So they price their hardbacks at, say, $30, and they price the mass media at $9, which is what you see in the bookstores. So if you figure that $4 per mass media, or the they're going to get $23,000 for the hard copies and $16,000 earnings for the mass market MMs. Now, when the sales returns come back in, so let's just say again 30% returns. So that means that there's going to be 600 hard copies that are returned. That means that they have to refund $8,100. There's going to be 1,200 mass market copies that are returned, which is a refund of $5,940. Well, if they're doing, say, a 7% royalty to the author, then they're going to pay $2,940 to the author for the sales, because they pay royalties based on number of copies sold. So they don't pay the royalties until after they know what the sales rate is. So they're paying royalties on 1,400 hard copies sold, and they're paying royalties on 2,800 mass market copies sold. So that's 2,900 and 1,700 and change that they pay to the author. They've also refunded $8,000 for the hard copies and $6,000 for the mass markets. Their actual production costs, setting the thing up, getting the book ready to go, and stuff like that, is roughly $10,000. That's including labor at between $20 and $30 an hour, depending on the professional that's doing the work. Which means if you do all of this and spin this all down, on a sales run of a single book that sold 1,400 hard copies and 2,800 mass markets, in other words, not a bestseller, they made $1,200 profit, which is less than they paid to the author. Now, their profit goes to zero if they have a 33% return. And that's why the percentage of the royalties that they give to the authors is actually so low. There really isn't a lot of room to play in this game. Now, if they have a best-selling author, like the outliers, the numbers of sales goes up, which means they produce more up front in the main run, which reduces the cost of the main run. And again, so their profits, they can actually make a huge profit and give the author a larger percentage if that author is going to be a best-selling author, where they can expect to sell 10,000 to 20,000 copies of the book. Again, they're still going to have, even on a best-selling author, they still have a 15 to 20% return rate. So they have to cover that. And that's how the traditional publishers' costs and printing process works out. Again, I will scan this and put this in the notes so that you can have access to that. But anyways, I hope this answered the questions on how the traditional publishing pricing structure works and what it means by returns. That's usually something that a lot of authors are constantly asking when they're just starting out. It's like, why am I getting such a low percentage on the royalties? Is that a good or is that a bad? Hey, 7% is good. 5% for brand new authors, kind of what you can expect sometimes. There's some publishers that are offering 15, 20%. If they are offering that, then they're either very, very confident in your book or they somehow reduce costs through some other mechanism. Be very cautious. And I wish you all the luck. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask questions. And if I can figure out how to do this, there'll be a subscribe button and you can just leave comments down there. Thank you very much. Talk to you later.